Hey guys, it's your girl Naira Amani, and I'm the host of Ambitious Artists Up Next, my series where I'll be interviewing up and coming artists. And my first guest is AJP. Welcome. How are you feeling today?
I'm good. I'm glad we're doing this.
Okay, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
So, we're going to get straight into it. So, you've been making music for some time now. What inspired you to become an artist?
I think it's been so long. I don't know. I was always growing up, I was into skateboarding.
Okay,
right?
dope.
And then I played football, and then I got into music, right? And as a kid, I didn't think that all those things. I didn't think you could be more than one thing,
right?
So like, if you were a skater, you just skate. If you were like a football
if you're an
player,
athlete, you're just an athlete.
Basically,
right?
like what I knew about life was from movies, and like there was cliques and jocks and skaters, and none of them got along, right?
Right.
So then, like through skateboarding, there was a couple skaters that actually would have, like, they were either artists themselves or they would have hip hop songs in their skate parts.
Right.
And like as a kid, I'm like, my world like
opened up, a whole new horizon.
Like it exploded, and I was like, whoa, you can do both.
Right.
So from there, I just like started writing lyrics and stuff. And this is like when I was really young. This is probably like maybe 9 or 10.
Oh,
I was just like, I was just like,
so you've been into it for
a long time. Yeah. And then I was 12 when I recorded my first song.
What?
So,
you got to tell us about that. What was that process like? What did you record on, first of all?
So when I would write songs, I didn't know anything about like song structure, composition, anything like that. So I was writing 10-bar verses, right? And I was just like, all right, whatever I would write about, I'd be like, this is my hook. I'd write 4 bars, and then I'd have a 10-bar verse. And I was like, that's my song.
Oh my God.
And at that time, Ballin' by Jim Jones was popular, and he had a remix all about the Giants. So I was like, this is perfect. I'm going to remix it and make it about the Jets, right? So that was my first song ever. It was a remix to a remix about the Jets.
That's crazy.
And it actually was my grandma. She had one of those like headsets like for making phone calls on the computer.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that's what I would use to record on a laptop, right? So, because back then, like home recording equipment like wasn't really a thing.
It wasn't that popular.
It wasn't that popular. And it also was like crazy expensive.
Yeah.
Like now, like I'm kind of learning I'm working on my ego, right? And I think that's a lot of artists deal with that.
Yeah.
But like at first, like when I heard about like BandLab and all these apps that like younger artists can just make a song.
It's so easy to start.
They
now.
just pull up their phone
easy.
and they're like recording into their phone, and I'm like, at first I'm like, what the no, like that's not.
That's not how you.
No, you shouldn't be able to do that. Like you have to. Like there was a meme and it was like buying airline tickets is like a laptop activity, but like you can't do that on a phone. Booking a hotel, that's a laptop activity, right? But like no, like. What you have the phone like
it's so easy to get started nowadays.
I don't know if you want to break the fourth wall here, but 2 of these cameras are phones. Like but if I didn't say that, nobody would know.
You wouldn't know. Like the quality, oh my gosh. It's amazing. It's amazing.
I filmed music videos on phones, podcasts on phones, like it's crazy. So but then like you had to have all this gear, and then the gear that they did sell, you had to have a crazy computer to even run it.
Right.
Like my little laptop wasn't recording stuff like that. So there was some feature like in Windows, and it was just like an audio recorder.
Yeah.
So I'd plug in like the little headset, like the help desk headset, and I'm like recording to beats and stuff. And that was the first song I ever made.
Bro, that's dope. Do you have the song name for us? Like,
I think it might have just been called New York Jets. Like I have no idea. But
so that's where it all started for you, New York Jets.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to bring it back to your early career as well. So you released your first song back in 2008.
Yep.
What was the process like creating that? I'm sure we're not using Windows
no.
computer anymore.
So I made a couple songs that way, recording with the
headset.
Yeah. And then I was like, I got to do something different here.
Yeah.
And so I remember my mom took me to Radio Shack, and I got a USB microphone.
Okay.
But it wasn't like one of these. It was like for like conference calls. But it was still better than my little headset, right? So what I would do is I had this dresser, and it was like, at the time as a kid, it was like right up like chest height. So I'd put the laptop on there and play the beat, and then I would have the microphone right there. So I would have
right up there.
I was like right up on it. And putting out those remixes and stuff, and I did a bunch of like remixes. I didn't know how to get beats, how to make beats. I would just go to YouTube
and search up,
pretty much. And through that, I was like meeting other people that were doing the same thing. So I met a producer on there. His name was Dirk. Shout out to Dirk. And he was making beats, and I hit him up and I was like, hey, can you make me beats, whatever.
Right.
And he at that time, now I'm 12 years old. I'm just like unrestricted internet access. Like, shout out to my mom for just kind of being chill about it. But definitely should have been supervised on the internet. But I'm glad I wasn't, because
it gave you freedom to
exactly.
do what you wanted to do.
But so I met Dirk and I was like, this is all through AIM now too, because on YouTube, do you remember AIM? Okay. Okay. See, I feel this we were talking about this. This is why I feel old as hell.
Hey, you don't got. You're not.
So it was,
you do got a couple of years, but we're not too far along.
So it was instant messenger, basically, like on desktop, and you could file share through it. So it like made stuff like super easy to collab.
Right.
So everybody then would have their AIM on their social, like as their social media, basically. So I hit him up and I was, told him who I was, and I asked for custom beats. So for $20, he would make me a custom beat. I'd record my vocals, send it to him, and he would mix
and master.
So,
okay.
And again, he's using like probably a little laptop, but he was actually like nice with it.
Yeah, he knew what he was doing.
I think when we met, he was 16, but I didn't like disclose like how old I was. And also I don't think, well, looking back now, I definitely sounded young, but I don't think I ever sounded like...
You don't think you could tell?
No.
Okay.
I don't think so. Maybe if I go back and look, it'd be like, no, that's clearly a 12-year-old.
12-year-old.
But it's even crazy to like just say that out loud, like 12 years old. But so I remember this. So I sent him Get Silly by VIC. Remember that song? You would know it if you heard it. You definitely would. So I sent him that. I said, can you make me a beat just like this? So he did. And the first song original song is called So Fresh. And I recorded it and I sent it. And back then I didn't know about like takes and stuff. So I was recording the whole song. So
just straight through. Oh my gosh.
So if there was if the chorus came in like 3 times, I was doing it 3 different times. I was just going through the whole thing. I'm like out of breath at the end and shit. But so I sent him, basically every weekend I'd go to my grandma's house and that's where I would record. So like all weekend I'd be working on music and I would record all this stuff, send it to him. And then like throughout the week, he'd be like sending me back like the mixes. And like for 2008, 9, like the quality I had, like I feel like it was pretty good. And he was like nice with the mixing too. Okay. So that's pretty much.
So he became like
he was like my go-to.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And that's how you were able to like, get started. Mm-hmm. Okay, cool, cool. So 2008 was definitely a great start to your career because not only did you start like making music, you also started your own label, Aaron Records, right?
Aaron Records,
okay,
yes.
So how did you get that started? Did you have a team?
Actually, yeah. So that's again too. So the main artist that I had on there that was basically like the vice president with me. Yeah. His name's M Dog, right? When we still work together. Like he just had a kid. I was at his wedding. Like it's insane. Oh my
gosh, I love that. Yeah. So you guys seen the growth. You're day ones.
We were filming a music video last weekend.
Ah, dope.
Like
okay.
We've known each other. We knew each other for 8 years before we met in person, and it was like just through online. Okay. I actually had a show. He's from Massachusetts. I had a show in Salem, and he came to
through.
It, and I was sitting like in the back of the venue. And I'll get to the record label question, but I'm sitting in the back of the venue and I'm like looking down at my phone and he's like, I'm here. And he walked in and we just looked up and we're like, oh, like it was crazy.
So that was your first time meeting in person?
In person, like
wow,
ever.
That's crazy.
But so originally before I met Dirk, I had, I was doing the remixes and stuff. And then I was like, oh, I'm going to get signed to a record label. I was like, 12 years old. I'm like, this is it. Like, I'm out of here, right? And so I looked up like what a record label does. And I was like, okay, cool. So I put together a demo, some remixes and some of the songs I did with Dirk at the time. And I mailed it out on a CD to like all these record labels. But at the time I knew that like Sony or like Warner, like they're not going to sign a 12-year-old.
Yeah, it's harder to get in contact with.
That too. So I found independent record labels and I was like, okay, like if I'm going to be signed, it's going to be like maybe like one of these. So I mailed it out. And at the time, like there were people making music independently, but not the way it is now. Like now it's like everybody.
Everyone's
But like I'd say about half of them actually like got back to me, and they were all like basically just giving me like constructive criticism. But it was all like positive. Like it was basically like this is not good, but like keep working.
But hey, get back to us in a few years.
Yeah, or they'd be like. And I wasn't like really researching. I would just do like independent record label New York City. So like I was sending it to probably like rock record labels.
Yeah, you gotta definitely figure out which ones are for
however many stamps I had, that's how many I sent out. I was like, but it was like encouraging to hear back and not just be like shit on, right?
Right.
And So then I looked up like, what does a record label do? And basically everything they did, I could do for myself, just at a smaller scale. So like produce your music, promote your music, get you in the studio. Like I was like, I'm already doing all that. And so I was like, why not just start my own thing? And I didn't think it looked, even back then, I didn't think it looked like cool or professional to have like AJP the MC, produced by AJP the MC, released by AJP the MC,
that makes
artwork by
sense.
AJP the MC. So I'm like, I gotta do something because it looks like I'm alone in my room, which I am. But like I don't.
But
want
hey,
to,
they don't have to know that.
No.
I have a whole
Yeah,
team.
yeah,
I have a whole team behind me.
Exactly. So after I met Dirk, I met M Dog through YouTube. He put out a remix to a Millie, right? So I found his remix there. I hit him up through AIM, and I was like, yo, we should do songs. And then I was like, hey, I'm starting a record label. Do you want to be a part of it? And I'm like, I'll be the president. You be the vice president. We're like, okay. He's a year older. So now it's a 12-year-old and a 13-year-old.
Oh my, and that's what's killing me. Like, this is not even, you guys, you're not even a teenager. Like, you're still a preteen making all of this happen. Like, that's crazy.
So, and then every weekend we would just get on AIM. It would be Dirk. He would like send us beats, or like M Dog would find beats somewhere, and we would just be making songs.
Yeah, just record.
There was another producer I met on there too. Shout out to D Betts. He taught me how to use FL Studio through AIM. So he would be like typing to me like the next step. So I would like read his message. I would go back to FL Studio, try to do it, go back, and I'm like, what? I accidentally clicked this. Like, what do I do?
Fix this?
Yeah. Now he's got to like type it back to me. So D Betts and Dirk were two producers I'd get beats from, and then me and M Dog were just like making songs like nonstop.
Yo.
And then through that, we just would find other artists through YouTube and been like, and it looked, I guess, for the time, like pretty professional.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, again, kudos to you. You're doing this at 12 years old. Like, most people don't make this happen until like way later on.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. And the coolest part about all that, the biggest it ever got was like maybe like 6 artists.
But hey, that's
it was pretty cool. And I went away for like a week, and I came back, and they had done songs, and I was like, "That's so cool!" Like,
yeah,
because
I don't even have to be here to know that it's
and they were all over the country too, and they were all like, some of them were like close to our age, but then there were other ones that were like at the time like in their 20s. They have no idea that they're like making music with like literal children on the internet,
yes.
Which sounds crazy when you say it. Like, I still am in contact with like a few of those artists, and like I started a podcast a couple years ago, and there's one artist that listened to it, and he was like, I had no idea you were like 12 years old. And I was like, yeah, well, like that was, it was by design.
You guys obviously met up like in person a lot, so they couldn't tell.
Well, no, this was never in person.
Oh, so it wasn't in person.
No, never.
Through
email. The only person I ever met in person was M Dog, and that was
okay, got you. So they wouldn't have known.
They wouldn't. Yeah,
they wouldn't.
It was all through AIM and like YouTube and stuff. Like they knew what we looked like.
Yeah,
but yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah. I was like, damn, I was working with a kid.
Yeah, that's like really a wake up call. Like, wow, this kid's a genius. Like, come on.
No, don't see. I told you I'm working on my ego. You can't be like, this guy's a genius.
No, I'm giving it to you though. I'm giving kudos to you.
Thank you.
12 years old. Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy.
Okay, so we're gonna skip to 2010. So you started DJing, right?
Yes.
You did like events and parties.
Yes.
And that was launched from like Aaron. You went from Aaron, like the record label to Aaron Productions, right?
Yeah. So I had a friend. So I had Aaron Records, right?
Aaron, sorry.
Yeah, it's cool. So I had Aaron Records, and then I had a friend hit me up one day, and he's like, I'm having a house party. You're going to DJ.
Okay.
I'm like, I'm not a DJ.
Yeah,
he's like,
I was going to say, like, how did you even get into that?
He just knew I was like into music.
Right.
So he's like, all right, he's going to handle the music. So I had basically a week to figure out how to DJ, right? So I had this big iHome speaker, like this giant one that you used to put your iPod on.
Right.
Remember what an iPod is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
You know, I got to check. So I was able to plug it into my laptop, and I mean, it was in a basement, so it's not like I needed like a huge setup or anything.
Crazy.
And I found some DJ software, and I was just basically just like a playlist, just standing there like playing stuff.
Okay, just playing the music. Okay.
But from there, and around that same time, I was going to teen nights at clubs. Those were like really popular at that time. That was kind of like the tail end of it, but like every weekend there'd be like a teen night at some nightclub. So like me and all my friends would go. So
that sounds really dope.
Yeah, no, it was really cool. And so I'm going to teen nights, I'm making music, and now I'm starting to DJ. And after a couple teen nights, like they were like $20 or $25 to get in, and they were happening all over. And I'd go to maybe like 1 or 2 a month. And by like the third or fourth one, I'm in there and I'm like counting how many kids. I'm like, there's like 1,000 kids in here. They all paid $20. I was like,
Imagine
somebody's
that.
making making bank.
That money,
So
yes.
so now I'm like, I know how to DJ. I can throw my own shows. I just need like a space.
Yeah.
2011, I met another DJ from like the next town over, and I was like, here's my idea. I want to like throw an event. We'll rent a space. You bring your equipment, DJ. I'll perform. And so again, young as hell. The other DJ, his mom had to rent the venue because neither of us were old enough to rent it.
Because you're like 14.
At that point, I'm
time.
like 14.
Yeah.
This guy at that time, I think, was 17.
Okay.
So it was like not a crazy crowd, but like we rented I think it was a VFW or like a Knights of Columbus hall.
Okay.
And he had his DJ set up, and we had, the speakers and everything, and we just threw a party. And I forget how much the hall was to rent, but I know we broke even. So we had enough people there to like basically
actually profit from it.
But
yeah.
we broke a table, so we had to pay for the table. So we actually lost money. So if we didn't break a table,
Now, how did that happen?
I have no idea.
Someone standing on
probably,
it and partying.
Probably somebody just like sitting on the table. But like we cleaned up all at the end, and then like the guy who like ran the space was like walking around, and he noticed it was broke, and so he's like, yeah, this is
that's
you
coming
gotta-
out.
yeah.
That's
So I was
coming
like-
out your pocket.
I was like, damn. I was like, we basically we didn't make money, but it was like this was successful.
it was
we didn't
still
lose
a cool
money.
experience too.
It was
I'm
definitely,
sure.
it definitely was. And then from there, we would just find different spaces to rent and like throw parties and stuff. And then I worked up to like actually throwing events in nightclubs, like teen nights in nightclubs. And the more I was doing that from like 15 to 16, 17, I was still making music, but like that was like
that was the main focus
that was
at
the
the
goal.
time.
And again, I needed a name for it because it couldn't just be, oh, this is AJ's party. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I get it.
So Aeron Records became Aeron Productions, which was Aeron Entertainment, which was Aeron Events. It was like a ton of stuff. And I was using the name for like everything.
Yeah.
And at that time too, I was reading a lot because starting a record label or like having one, whether it was as big or as serious as it was, but reading a lot about Richard Branson and how he had Virgin Records, and then he had like Virgin Mobile, Virgin Airlines, like all this stuff. I'm like, so
build a name off of that.
exactly.
One thing,
So Aeron was like my Virgin at the time.
Yeah.
And I was like, everything's gonna be Aeron, and I just wanted, but after time, like the name just kind of got worn out, and it was like, what even is it? Like, is it parties? Is it a record label?
Is it record
It's
label?
like,
yeah, that's where
so,
the confusion can come
yeah.
in.
And but no, it was a fun run, and some of those parties too, like I'll tell people about it and they'll be like, what? Like, and again, the same thing, like we're talking, and they're like, you were 15 and you were like running a
that's
nightclub.
crazy.
And I'm like, yeah, it's when you think about it, yeah, it's kind of crazy.
So you did that for a good like 3 years.
Yeah. Just
Okay.
about 3 or 4 years.
Okay, nice.
I have no idea. Like nobody was like checking on anything, but like there was a club in Asbury Park that I was like throwing teen nights at, and they were just letting me do it. Like I would pick a day. They would tell me like what days they had free. I would pick a day and just throw a party. I was never like signing contracts. Like they were working with a child. I was 15 years old, and like if anything ever happened, like they could like that's on them because
Yeah.
like you didn't check. Like you know what I mean? But once I became like 17, 18, I was like, oh, now, like, if anything happened, like, I can get in trouble for this. I'm like, I don't want to.
So he said, cut,
Yeah,
no more, no
no,
more. I can't do this.
no,
It's going to be
if-
under my name.
Yeah, if I can get in trouble now, like, no, I'm not doing that. But
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Well, thank God nothing did happen during
No,
that time,
yeah,
and
nothing-
it was successful.
nothing. Well, it was mildly successful at that time too. Like teen nights were like coming to an end, and so many people started to do it because you could rent a hall for like $300.
Right.
And if you had the equipment and DJs, but you're also competing against other people in other towns, different areas.
Yeah.
And then the actual teen nights that are happening
Actually
too.
happening
Yeah,
in the area
yeah,
as well,
so-
right?
But I would say I was about 50-50 with like successful events.
Okay.
There'd be times you'd rent a space, set everything up, and nobody would show up. And then you're just standing around, and
Just like,
I'm just
where's
gonna blast.
everyone?
I'm gonna blast music here for another like 2 hours until I have to leave. you know?
Yeah,
Because also we didn't drive, so like either
Yeah,
my
you're
mom or my
taking that
grandparents
time to
would
come out there
drop
and-
us off, and I would tell them when to pick me up. So I'm like just waiting for them to come pick me up. You know what I mean? But yeah, no, it was doing the events. It was fun, and I learned a lot, and I was able to take what I learned there and like
apply it.
apply it to doing my own like events as an artist and performing. But during that time, I definitely wasn't focusing on my music as much.
Right.
But I wouldn't change anything. It was so much fun. And
Okay.
yeah.
So I know your artist name is AJP the MC. Did the
Yes.
MC stem from doing like the events, or was
So-
that always like your artist name?
It started out as just, well, I went through like a bunch of names, right?
Okay.
And I finally was like, okay, AJP, that was it, right?
Right.
And friends, and again, this is like 6th grade, so friends were calling me like DJ AJP.
That's what I'm
DJ
saying.
AJ.
Like you think
So-
of a DJ, an
yeah,
MC,
so-
so I'm like, okay, maybe that's where the artist name stems.
So at first, I'm like, no, I'm not a DJ. I rap. I'm a rapper.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, AJP the MC. But then like 2 or 3 years later, I'm DJing. So now it's just confusing. Basically,
Yeah.
me and names have like never really worked.
It's like, bro, stick to one.
Exactly.
Stick to one thing.
Like if I could go back in time, I'd just tell myself like stick to one thing.
Mhm.
Like, but again, I wouldn't change anything.
Yeah.
But so I added the MC, and then I dropped it when I was DJing. So it was just AJP. So either one. My full stage name is AJP the MC.
Right.
But you'll find something that I have just AJP on. Or,
Gotcha.
whatever.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it definitely kind of stemmed from just a little bit the MC part from the DJ.
Yeah. I had to go. I had to put it on there so people know I wasn't a DJ. Then I became a DJ, and then I dropped it and had to put it back. So
Hey, I'm no longer a DJ, y'all. So
no, I do not DJ. I want that known. Any family, I don't DJ. I bring you a speaker. You can borrow it. I'm not DJing your parties.
hey, I'll play the music
yeah.
from my playlist.
No, I'll send you a Spotify playlist and drop off a speaker. That's it.
So your music career kind of got like, started taking off during high school.
Mm-hmm.
So after you graduated, like what were your plans after that? Like where did your
So-
music career go after that?
So there was somebody. So doing the parties and the teen nights and all that. I met a guy who was a promoter and a pretty successful one. He was like
Okay,
he was like
cool.
one of the guys doing it at the actual nightclubs. And he had like a whole like roster of DJs that would work his events and stuff. And he had a label. And it was all like EDM and stuff. So we didn't work together musically because I was making hip hop. He was doing like EDM stuff. But his label, he basically got a deal, like a distribution deal with a major label, right?
Oh,
And he was
nice.
telling me like once the deal goes through, I want to open up the label to be his label to be like everything, not just EDM. So he's like, as soon as you graduate, like you're gonna be
I'm gonna sign you.
yeah. So now I'm like, and this was like right towards the end of my senior year. So I'm like, I stopped doing, cause I turned 18. I stopped doing the teen nights and everything. I'm back to like making music, putting stuff
Yeah,
out now.
focusing on your career now.
And then he tells me this. So now I'm like, I'm coasting.
set.
I'm like, I'm not
I'm
even.
set.
I didn't. All my friends are like trying to apply to college. They're like taking SATs. I'm like, I'm not doing any.
yeah,
of that.
you feel like you're set. You're in a good place.
Totally.
You
And-
already know where you're going.
Exactly. I'm like, this is it. Like, he's gonna. And I trusted this guy. Worked with him a lot. I'm like, he has a label, and I knew he did, and he was getting a distribution deal with a major and all that. And I'm like, this is set. I learned then you don't talk about a deal till a deal's done, because I graduated and then like a week later he's like, yeah, like it fell through and all that stuff. So now I'm like,
oh no.
I'm like, not that I like would have went to college or did stuff different, but I'm like, I was. And
it was nice knowing you had
Sure.
something set up.
I was like
you know?
spending money I didn't even have yet. I'm like, I'm set, like I have nothing to worry about now.
Yeah.
But so that fell through. So now I'm like, shit, what do I do? I have, I had these plans to be on this. I was going to put, music out through him and do all this stuff. I thought basically I thought I had a job,
Yeah.
And so I learned that, and I'm like, well, now I got to try to figure something out.
Yeah.
So I would say like from when I started to like right then is like the first chapter of my career. And basically the second chapter was like, now I got to start over. Like I was planning and was prepared to
Be on a label,
yeah.
be a part of
And
yeah.
it was basically what I wanted like my entire career to be on, something like that. And now I don't have that, so I started making music. I was getting back into it, but I started to like really get back into it. I put out an EP, and I'm like, well, I gotta just get back to what I know and just kind of build
start
again.
from the basics.
And
yeah.
I was already starting from a place of like having to rebuild, because I'm coming off of DJing. Everybody knows me as like DJing. If I posted a show, people were like, oh, like it's like a nightclub event. It's not like
He's
like
an
a
actual
concert.
performer.
Yeah. They didn't know if they were coming to see me, if I'm going to be DJing, performing, hosting something. So I was doing
Yeah.
so many different things. So that happens in the summer of 2014. And then I put out an EP in the fall, and I'm like, I'm just going to start doing shows, booking shows with what I learned from doing parties. and really just go from there. So I linked up with a drummer because at that time, like, you would email these venues and be like, I want to do a concert at your place. You know, this is me. I'm a hip hop artist. Immediately they would see that rap. No, we're not doing it. And there would be a lot of venues that would like not want you there because you're rap.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, I'll get a drummer and have a DJ, and I'm a band now. So they're like, oh, okay, that a lot of these venues were like, oh, you're a band, okay, and like, because they're not listening to your music, they just want to see.
They
it.
just want to.
So like, we took pictures, and I had videos of us like rehearsing and stuff, and they're like, oh, God, instruments, cool, yeah, come on,
it correlates,
yeah. So around that time, like 2014, fall and winter 2014, I was booking shows around New Jersey and like spots that like rappers didn't get into. So it was pretty cool to be able to like perform at these different places that like I knew a lot of other rappers that I like was coming up with like couldn't perform at, or they didn't even think to be able to.
Kind of gave you that
them.
advantage.
Yeah. So you know, that was pretty cool, and I just knew that from there I just have to start, you know, rebuilding and, you know, go from there.
Okay. So, how was your experience touring for your first time back in 2016? I know you toured Jersey, New England.
Yep. So the rebuilding, I knew that like I needed a foundation.
Right.
I couldn't just like be performing the stuff I put out like when I was 13 years old. You know, I need
we're way
I have
far from
like
that.
new stuff to talk about, new sound. You know, also performing with a drummer, it changed like kind of how I made music, because now I'm thinking like, okay, like this could have like a cool drum solo here, or like or maybe the drums I was putting in my songs were too complex for a drummer because it's electronic. You know what I mean? Like, you're making beats on a laptop, you can do a lot more maybe than physically a drummer could do, or it just doesn't fit. So I was producing music with a live performance in mind, and those 2 years from 2014 to 16, I was just like putting out small projects, singles, EPs. And in 2016, I booked a tour, and it was New England, New York, Jersey, PA. And basically just the same sort of thing, like reaching out to venues, once I had the venue booked, I'd find local artists in that city and just would go do shows. And, you know, you'd pull up to a show in the middle of New York State somewhere, and there's like 3 artists there, and plus you, and 5 people outside, but you're like, you know, this is what we're doing tonight, you know? And it was a really fun time because I just rounded up a bunch of friends, and I was like, hey, we're going to be gone for 2 weeks. I think it was 8 shows over 2 weeks. So we went out, we came back, we were home for a couple of days, and then we went out to do some more. And we just packed up my car and we just went. But it was fun. It was an experience. And I learned a lot too, just how touring goes. I mean, because it wasn't like really an official tour, but just learning about how the whole process goes, how expensive it is to be out on the road. Like, you know, it was me and 3 other friends sharing hotel rooms everywhere we went, you know,
and you guys are all funding this yourselves. This is coming out of your pocket.
None of those shows made money. That tour lost like a shit ton of money. The first break that we had, we were coming back from Portland, Maine, and we were in New York, and like we had to like put all our money together just to fill up the gas tank to get back. Like, we had like no money at all.
But this is the life of an artist. Like, you know, it's trials and tribulations,
and
man.
It's crazy because like hip hop is built on like bragging, flexing, and all that stuff. And then you go out and you have to like deal with like touring, you know. And again, we're using my car, we're hauling gear and stuff. But like when you start doing like bigger events, bigger stuff, like venues are going to need guarantees. You're going to have to get a certain amount of people there. You know, you're going to be, the business of touring and just being an artist in general. Like, maybe I shouldn't be talking about, you know, cars I don't have, or jewelry I'm not wearing, and money I'm spending I don't have. And, you know, you send an artist on tour that's ever been on tour, I guarantee their music will change. Like, their subject matter of their music, because they'll realize like it's, you know, it's real out there. And
so, let's drift off. We're going to skip some years ahead. So, how was your career during the pandemic?
So, that's where I would put the beginning of the 3rd chapter.
Okay.
Because I was building back. I was doing shows. I learned it was like way too expensive to do the tour thing, because you go out and you have a show, you're paying for a hotel, you're paying to rent the venue, paying for event insurance, you're paying for all this different stuff, travel to get there,
Yep.
food for all these people. I can't ask my friends to come with me and be my photographer or be like my tour manager and like expect them to have to pay for stuff. You know what I mean? Most of the time they're having to take off work too. So, you know, I'm trying to make it fair for everybody and cover stuff. So I'm like, this is just way too expensive to do it that way. So what I was doing is I was doing one show a month out of state. And I would do the same process where I'd rent a venue, find local artists, but one a month allowed me to basically save money.
Some money.
Totally.
And also put more money towards. Yeah.
And we live in a great area to where, like, from New Jersey, if you go like 6 hours in any direction, you're like in a major city.
I
so like
agree.
you can get
we're
to like
near New York, we're near Philly.
Exactly.
So
and even
much.
if you go like further, like Richmond, Virginia, you're up, and if you go the other way, you're in Boston, like 4 or 5 hours.
Yep.
So one a month was working, and I was doing that for a while, and I actually put out a project in 2019, and I had a whole tour booked for 2020. Okay. It was going to be March and April of 2020, and it was actually going back to that touring model where we would be out for a couple of days, come back, go out for a couple of days, and I kind of had it planned to where like the shows would either break even or we would make money on it. And having done it now for years, plus the parties before, at that point I had like a whole merch set up and everything, a whole stage production, light shows. I had a light show that was like synced to the music. Like it was like a whole big thing. And it was like January of 2020, and you would hear about, you know, what was coming. And
that's when everything started.
You would hear people
south.
talking about it, I remember, and you know, people look back on it now. Everybody has an opinion on it. That's one thing. But during that time, like, nobody knew what was going on. And I just wanted to know when I could do my shows. And they got pushed back from March and April to, I think it was like May, June. Then that got basically canceled.
Yeah.
So I think it got pushed back maybe twice, but ended up getting canceled. So now I'm sitting here like, okay, like, when do I do it? When can I do it? And then at that point, do I even want to perform that music? You know, like what, at that point, I'm not connected to it. It's already old to me.
Right,
It's
you might have
out.
new stuff out. Yeah, that's.
And so 2020, like right before everything shut down, my dad died.
I'm sorry.
Thank you. And then 2021, my mentor who ran and owned the studio that I worked at, which we can get into too.
Yeah.
But, he passed away. And then 2022, my grandfather passed away. So it was like every year, it was like, and it was all in the winter, so it was like every year, like something like that. So I'm thinking like this music now, like I'm not connected to it. I'm not gonna try to like, you know, book shows and perform that music. I'll perform some of those songs, but I don't want to tour that music anymore, you know? So that's kind of where, like, I would say January 2020 is where I kind of close chapter 2, and then chapter 3 starts. And the pandemic was a weird time. It was a weird time for everybody.
It was.
And trying to write new stuff and then going through like 3 deaths, like one after another. It's like, what do I even write about? Like, because I feel like I put out a project in 2017, and that was after like a really long breakup. So I feel like a lot of those songs were sad, and I'm like, I don't want to put out
you
another.
Don't want to I don't like we need something new here. Yeah, I promise you guys, I'm not a sad guy.
I'm not, you know. And the project in 2019 was kind of more. It had a different tone, but again, I wasn't like connected to those songs anymore. I felt like everything was changing. Everybody was kind of trying to figure stuff out. So let me try something new. But then it's like, what do I write about? I don't want to, like I said, put out a whole nother album of sad stuff. Yeah. So it was really around 2023, like the beginning of 23, that I kind of got back into it and was like producing stuff again. And, you know, and then that kind of leads into the project that I have coming out.
Yeah, and I was just going to ask, you got anything new for us coming out?
I do. So this project has, I don't think I want to put the name out yet.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, when it's still working on it.
But it's definitely taken like different shapes and become different things. And what I've been working on now is, I think, like some of the best stuff ever and that I've done. And I've changed like my whole process. Like I'm definitely not recording with like the little headset mic anymore.
Like we're in the actual studio now.
We're in the studio now. It's been a lot of fun. It's become fun again. I don't want to say after the pandemic, because even a little before that too, but it felt kind of like just what I had to do, right? Because I'm sure you know too, like people you go to school with or just people you know, they have big dreams, and then slowly you see them like fade out of it, and then they give up, and then it kind of changes them too. And not that I ever did want to quit, but I have so many different interests. The parties, doing other stuff.
Yeah.
I want to write a movie, like all this different stuff. Just all these ideas, right?
AJP, the movie coming out
The
soon.
movie, yes. Yeah, I'm gonna be an actor too. But just so many different things that like music. I felt like I had to make music because people knew me as an artist. So there was points where I'm putting out songs and I'm just like, I'm just putting it out because like this is like what I feel like I should do.
Yeah.
There's definitely was a couple songs over the last couple years I was just putting out just to kind of keep my name out there as making music. But the songs that I'm working on for this project, I don't know if I'm going to call it an album project. Again, that's another thing. Like, is it a mixtape project, album? Right. Albums really, are they even a thing? You know what I mean? Some people will say, oh, my new album. Some people will be like, oh, I don't make albums. And then if you listen to like some new stuff, it's like none of the songs sound like they go together, you know? And I'm not saying everybody has to make something like a Good Kid, Mad City where it has like a theme, but like a lot of stuff you listen to now, it's just like an artist will just make like, 10 songs and just throw them together. They're making a playlist, It's a playlist of singles. And I didn't want to do that. So this project definitely has a theme. And it's basically, like I was saying before, previously I'm rapping about like, money in the club, which I was. Like, which is crazy to think because like if you hear like a 16-year-old being like, oh, I'm in the club, with girls and shit.
It's
you're
like, no, how did he get in here?
Yeah, it's a teen night, but I'm not going to say that in the raps. But, and there was a time I did a couple like 18 and up parties, but like I had like this whole like life as a nightclub promoter. So like not all of it was like not true, but like most of it, I'm talking like the first, in So Fresh, my first song, I have a line, I say $100,000 worth of ice around my neck. I'm 12 years old, but I was listening to Soulja Boy and Gucci Mane.
Yeah,
and
you get inspired. It's like, that's the part of being an artist. You fake it till you make it sometimes.
Pretty much. But, this project I have coming out is basically like two parts of me talking, and it's like the one part that's like, no, like rap about what you've been through things, you've done things, like you have a lot to pull from, and then the other side of me is like, no, but like the music that's popular, the music people want to hear is like just flexing and just talk about like cars and shit, So the album kind of goes back and forth between that.
Half fun and half like, past
but also too like
experiences.
how I feel conflicted on like which side to portray, to put out, because there was definitely a point in time like early in my career where AJP was like a character. Like I would have like clothes and outfits I would wear like if I was going to do a video or going to do like a show, and then like if you saw me out I would look different, like what I wore, how I was styled and things like that. And I think too, as any like young artist or new artist, you're gonna like have like a persona, like a something, but kind of becoming like a true self, your true artist self, is like lately has been pretty big for me, and that's kind of an overall theme on this upcoming project. So.
Okay, well, I'm excited to hear. Do you have any features on there, or is it just all you?
So no, I can't. I don't think anybody wants to hear 12 songs or 13 songs of like just me. I like working with other people too, because you can send them something and they hear it totally different.
Yeah, and they'll add their,
With these songs, I changed it up like totally how I write. Usually I would just have a beat and I would just start writing to it. Now what I did is I'll have like the theme of the song and I'll write out like an essay, and I'll write like what I want to talk about. And then I'll go back, I'll like highlight lines. I'm like, okay, this could be a bar, or I want to make this a bar, like definitely mention that. Then I'll go through and try to write the lyrics to the beat. I also bought a little recorder, and I'll play beats in the car and just freestyle and drive. Because I used to do that, but I was never recording it. And I would try to, like, when I would get home, I would try to, like, remember those lines.
So those freestyles helped with the project as well?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So now, like, when I'm driving, I'll be, like, recording into this little recorder, playing beats through the car. And I'll go home and listen to it. And like,
I can have that.
Yeah. I'm like, oh no, like that. And it might be like a 6-minute recording of just me saying nothing, like reading the street signs or reading like a truck in front of me. But like something there will spark a line, and then it's just me repeating it, trying to get it right. And I go home and I'm like, okay, now I have it. Because it's one thing to like write a verse, but then it's how you say it. You could have lines that are like pretty nice, but then when you say it to the beat, it just doesn't
flow.
No,
Yeah, I get it.
So that that mixed with like writing essays has been cool. And then you send it to an artist. If you have a collab, you send it to somebody, and then they might hear it totally different,
They'll
and then
add
they
their little flavor
yeah
to it.
yeah.
And
So
it all comes together. Yeah.
so to answer the question, there are features, M-Dog's on it,
Okay.
which is pretty cool, and
And
just-
that is, I feel
yeah.
like that's special because you
Yeah.
guys go way back.
yeah.
So.
And the song that we have together is called 2012,
Okay.
and we shot a video for it. It'll be out probably by the time this is out.
Okay. Cool.
So
cool.
and that was really cool to go up there, and we rented this studio. We filmed a video, and just to think, like, literally he was just a kid posting on YouTube. I was just a kid posting on YouTube, and like we stayed connected, and like not only stayed connected, but both of us are still making music.
Making music.
You know,
yeah,
it's
and
one
working together.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like I said, like going to his wedding, he has a son now. It's like it's
That's
crazy,
beautiful.
you
It's
know.
like, man, we've been in this
Like you hear
since
about
the beginning.
you hear about people like making friends through like Xbox or like, you know, and then like that's literally, it's like the same thing,
you guys
know.
made it through
But
music.
yeah, and we're still doing it, which is, you know, pretty cool. But
okay.
yeah,
So I'm really excited to hear this project. Thank you so much for joining me
Yeah,
on this first episode.
thank you for having me. I'm glad to be your first episode.
Yes. And thank you for tuning in to Ambitious Artists Up Next. I'll catch you guys next time.